Welcome back. You're watching News Centre. On to a CNBC TV18 exclusive. The government is likely to soften its stance on retrospective GST demand notices for online gaming companies. Sources have told CNBC TV18 that the government saw merit in the argument that a company cannot pay unrealistic tax demands. Timsy Jaipuria joining us now with more details. Timsy.
Well, as you rightly said, what sources are indicating to us is the fact that the government is likely to soften its stance on the retrospective GST demand notices that were sent to online gaming companies. And this is on the back of the fact what sources indicate that government is realizing the existential issue for gaming companies that if they have to pay GST demands which were raised for the period between July 17 till March 2023, they seem to be a little unrealistic. Government is likely to have sought a legal opinion also when it comes to what should be the way out of this tussle between the government and the online gaming companies. And government sees that there is merit in the fact that the argument that has been raised by the online gaming companies that these demands are too high, unrealistic, and how will they actually clear these demands or pay up these demands. Just to remind our viewers that government has filed an SLP in the Supreme Court against the Karnataka High Court judgment which had quashed the 21,000 odd crore rupees show cause notice that was sent to Gamescraft by DGGI. Also, when we look at what is the total quantum which is at stake right now, about 71 show cause notices were issued to the industry, totaling about 1,12,000 odd crore rupees. And these notices were issued just in FY23 and FY24. So there's a huge at stake, and yes, and how to see whether these companies will be able to pay up or not. So something that the Supreme Court will have a tough time. That's what sources indicate.
Right, Timsy, do stay with us. We are now joined by Mr. D.P. Nagendra Kumar, former member of the GST Central Board of Indirect Taxes as well as Customs and Senior Advisor at Deloitte India. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. First question, retrospectivity is almost a taboo word in Indian taxation. Indian courts have not looked very kindly on earlier efforts to retro tax. Could that be perhaps one of the reasons why the government is now a little more pragmatic, perhaps a little more careful in its approach with respect to GST and levy of retrospective GST levy on gaming companies?
Yeah, I think we need to look at exactly how the things have evolved in the last 1 year or so. The decisions taken in the 51st and 52nd GST Council has made it very clear that the amendments will be implemented from 1st October, and it is in place today. And the government, senior officials of the government are on record to say that these are all in the nature of clarificatory amendments. And the issue of demands by DGGI for the period 17 to 2023 proceeds on the ground that these are nothing but betting and gambling, and therefore it attracts 28% as an actionable payment, 28%. We need to look at exactly how this is going to be decided by the Honorable Supreme Court. The matter is, as Timsy rightly said, it is before the Supreme Court. We need to look at exactly how the Supreme Court is going to look at it. We are also aware of the fact now, I think against a few show cause notices issued by the DGGI, I think the gaming companies have moved the High Courts, and the High Court have stayed, particularly Gujarat High Court, Mumbai High Court, Sikkim also has stayed, and Calcutta High Court has also, I think, in a way, taking note of these stay orders, have decided that the authorities may go ahead and hear the parties and take into consideration the replies, pass their orders, but do not enforce the orders. This is what I think we hear from the High Court orders, but we will have to wait for the Supreme Court to take a decision. This is what I would say.
So just to step in there, you were at the helm when this entire issue was boiling. You were part of the board. You were handling the entire GST mandate. Didn't government think at that time that these claims are too high for any particular company to pay? Because that is what now is giving government a second thought that are these demands really realistic? Will any company be in a position to pay these demands? I mean, as high as 21,000 crore rupees. In another case, it is 20,000 odd crore rupees. In certain cases, the demand has been divided in 3-4 tranches because these are done by various jurisdictions of DGGI, and they are again totaling up to around 20,000 odd crore rupees. Aren't these too high and unrealistic? Because that's what what sources are indicating, that whether they'll be able to pay this or not.
Tipsy, we need to wait for the apex court decision, but whether the amounts are very high and whether the taxpayers can pay or not, I think it's a pure legal view taken by the government that these are nothing but betting and gambling, and therefore falls within the realm of actionable claims as per the law at that time before amendment. One has to wait and see. Probably, Timsy, it will be too early for us to comment upon because the entire matter is sub judice before the apex court.
So any practical solution according to you? What could be that?
I think we'll have to wait for the apex court to decide. Perhaps I think one more point of view, I think Honorable FM has said when these amendments were proposed and introduced, that a 6-month window will be available for the government to look at and review how this revised amendments are functioning. We need to wait for that review as well. But for the past period, I think the whole matter is before the Supreme Court, and I think we must wait for the apex court to decide the matter, and the outcome will be definitely be, I think, what is going to bind the government as well as the taxpayers.
Right, Mr. Kumar, thank you so much for joining us and sharing that perspective with us. So clearly all eyes now on the top court for giving more clarity on the way forward as far as GST levy on online gaming companies are concerned. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of News Center. More news and updates will continue right here.